Dealing with anxiety can ruin your life if you let it, but I've got 5 tips that can help you hack your anxiety. Let's talk. Hi there, Shannon here with Genesis Balance. If you're new to my channel, I want to say welcome and thank you for stopping by. And if you've been here before, I want to say welcome back and thank you so much for your support. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss a moment of content that's designed to help you live your best life. So, anxiety is one of those things that I think everyone feels from time to time, but some of us feel anxiety a little bit more intensely, and we have a harder time of controlling the anxiety when we do feel it. So what's going on in your body when you're having anxiety or an anxiety attack is that there are these components to your brain called the amygdala. And when this was explained to me, the person that was explaining to me actually nicknamed them Amy. So this is just for your own benefit and knowledge. Look up the term amygdala later after the video and see exactly all of what they do for your body. But basically, the amygdala are in charge of the fight or flight response. They are what kind of sends the signal from your brain to your body to say, hey, it's time to freak out. So when I think about it, and the way that it was explained to me is like it's as though the amygdala or the Amy's are kind of flipping through the channels on the television of your brain, and they stop on the anxiety channel. And instead of continuing to flip channels, they start watching and they get stuck and sucked into this train wreck of a show on the anxiety channel. And that is why it's so hard for us to actually control our anxiety, because once it kicks up, if you've ever had a panic attack, anxiety attack, if you deal with ruminating thoughts or just feeling anxious in general, you know that once you get going, it can be almost impossible to stop. So the first tip that I have is deep breaths. I know that you've probably seen like on old TV shows or something like that, when someone is freaking out and panicking, they'll give them a paper bag and tell them to breathe into the bag and take deep breaths. And the reason that they're doing that is because when you're breathing into that paper bag, you're actually kind of rebreathing some of the air you've already breathed. So now you're kind of bringing in carbon dioxide instead of oxygen, which obviously is not what our body wants. It's not what our body needs. It needs oxygen, it needs air. So just from the sheer fact that that is not what your body is wanting, your body starts to slow down its breathing. So that's why the whole breathing into the paper bag thing is a thing, because it causes you to slow down your breathing. Well, we can do that on our own when we're having anxiety or we're starting to feel a little bit anxious. We can just control our breathing on our own by taking deep breaths. So the way that I always tell clients to do this is to breathe in through your nose, hold your breath, and then breathe out through your mouth as though you're breathing out of a straw. Now, the trick to this is the counts that it takes, the time, the seconds that it takes for you to do this one breath. So I always tell clients to breathe in through their nose and make sure it takes them 4 seconds to breathe in. So that's, and then I tell clients to hold their breath for 4 seconds. So we've just breathed in and now we're holding. And then I tell my clients to breathe out of their mouth for 6 seconds and breathe as though they're blowing through a straw. So what that does is it slows down the breathing process. It's really a controlled breath and you're no longer hyperventilating. And you're also focusing on your breathing instead of whatever was causing you anxiety. But there's more to it than that. When you control your breathing and you slow your breathing down and control it, it actually can lower your heart rate and it can lower your blood pressure. It really works to calm you down. So, hack number 1 is to take deep breaths. Number 2, change the channel. Like I said in the beginning, the amygdala, the Amy's, they are sitting there watching the anxiety channel and it is stuck on that channel and they are just eating it up and they're sending all of these signals all over your body saying, hey, freak out, freak out, freak out, have an anxiety attack. So we've got to change the channel. How do you do that? Well, one of the things that keeps you in this anxious state is the fact that you are ruminating or stuck thinking or in a cycle of thinking about the thing that's causing the anxiety. You're just kind of stuck thinking about the situation, the person, whatever, thinking about all the ways that this can go wrong, all the different ways this can go left, and you can't stop watching this anxiety channel. So the way to change the channel is to think about something else. Take your mind, almost physically taking your mind from whatever is provoking the anxiety and placing your mind on a different channel, on a different thought, and focusing only on that thought, changing the channel. So now we are able to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room and we're not so tense, we're not so stressed. And it takes a lot of focus to move your thoughts from one thought to the next when you're actually trying to control your thoughts. So that's really what it's about, is controlling the thoughts that cause the anxiety, putting them on the back burner and focusing on something else. So number 3, my third hack is to do the opposite. So think of it like opposites day, think of it like a Freaky Friday, however you need to remember it, do the opposite. So what exactly does it mean to do the opposite? Well, when you are having a panic attack, for instance, if I am in an anxious state and I'm panicking and I feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't sit down right now, I am going to pass out. I'm going to hit the floor. I'm going to fall. Well, that isn't really your thought. That's not you talking. That's anxiety talking. And anxiety is like that little devil on your shoulder, tapping on your shoulder saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. If you sit down, you'll feel better. Well, the problem with that is if we sit down and we feel better, then the next time we feel that way, we are going to listen to whatever anxiety is telling us to do because the last time we did it, it worked. So now anxiety is grabbing just a little bit more control of our life. It's telling us what to do. We're doing it. And because it worked in the moment, we are basically training ourselves to not listen to our own rational thoughts, but to listen to what anxiety is telling us to do. So this is a time where you need to be a rebel with a cause. You need to do the opposite of whatever that first initial thought was. So if I am in a panic and my first initial thought is I need to sit down or I'm going to fall, well, what I really need to do is I need to stand up because my mind and my body need to get the message that I am going to be okay. I need to know that this is not a life or death situation. Now, of course, if you're actually in a life or death situation, by all means, run away. Do what you need to do to stay safe. But I'm just talking about having your basic run-of-the-mill anxiety about your basic run-of-the-mill things every day. So if, for instance, I feel like sometimes I will notice that, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example of as good as the sit down example, but I think that might be the best way to explain it. If I feel like I'm going to fall out if I don't sit down, I always say, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? You fall on the floor? Well, that's not that far of a drop. So let's say you did fall. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I can almost guarantee you that you probably won't, just because that's not really your thought process. That's anxiety trying to tell you what to do to control you. So do the opposite. So number 4 is rhythmic tapping. So this is very similar to what moms do with babies when they are crying and upset. What does a mother do when the baby is upset? She rocks her. She rocks the baby to sleep. She rocks them to soothe them. That is why rhythmic tapping works, because it kind of puts us back in a place of perfect protection and comfort in our mom's womb. So even if you didn't even grow up with your mother, and you could have never met your mom, but at some point in time your mother was pregnant with you, and as she went on throughout her day-to-day functions, she walked around, she moved around, and what that did was rock the baby in her womb back and forth. So we have learned over time to equate that rhythmic movement with our mother's womb, or with our mom rocking us to sleep, or with our mom rocking to soothe us, or whoever it may be. Anyone that sees a crying baby, we know what to do. You pick the baby up and you bounce them or you rock them. And that is why the rhythmic tapping works to calm us down. So one of the methods that I will tell clients to do is, I think it's actually referred to as EFT tapping in some instances, but that's not exactly what this is about. So I'm not going to get too deep into that. But one way you can do that is to take your hands and just open, shut, open, shut, open, shut, open, shut. And that rhythmic tapping actually will help calm you down. You can also tap on your legs. That's the technique that we do with an intervention called EMDR. Or you can give yourself butterfly hugs, where you cross your arms and you tap. And that rhythmic tapping, that tapping motion, is going to mimic being rocked back and forth. And that, I guarantee you, will help calm down your anxiety. And then also, it takes brain power to actually do those rhythmic tapping motions. And so you are going to have a hard time focusing on freaking out about whatever is causing you to be stressed and anxious, and focusing on keeping time rhythmically while tapping. So number 5 on how to hack your anxiety is to adjust your focus. So similar to changing the channel and moving your thoughts from whatever is on the anxiety channel to what is not going to be anxiety provoking, is similar to that, except it's really honing in on focusing. So there's 2 different techniques that I like to use to try to focus on something else other than what's causing the anxiety. And one I refer to as the ABCs. So with the ABCs, you literally look around the room and you try to challenge yourself to name something that starts with each letter of the alphabet. So if I see an apple, and then maybe I see a ball, maybe there's a cat in the room, things like that. So you are really having to focus in on something other than the anxiety. You're really having to shift your focus and pay attention to what's going on around you, what objects are in the room around you, and then you're using brain power to try to name those objects in order of the alphabet. That takes a lot more brain power than it seems like it should, but it really works to help shift your focus. And I challenge you to try to do that now and just see how difficult it actually can be to actually get through the entire alphabet in order, naming just things that are in the room with you. And then the other method that I like to do is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is where you look around the room and you name to yourself 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can feel, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Now, you don't necessarily have to do them in that manner. You can do, 5 things you can hear, or maybe 2 things you can hear, or, 2 things you see and 5 things you smell. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you are using that brain power to shift the focus away from what is causing you anxiety to something else. And we refer to these as grounding techniques. These are the things that help keep you grounded when you're feeling anxiety. So that's deep breaths, change the channel, do the opposite, rhythmic tapping, and adjust your focus. And I do want to mention, when I was talking about the amygdalas and Amy watching the anxiety channel, I want to put out a disclaimer that I did not come up with that. That is not my analogy at all. I got it from one of my supervisors, who I think actually got it from a seminar she went to or a book she read or something to that effect. But that part of it is not my own work. I did not come up with the Amy analogy of watching the TV and changing the channel. So I just wanted to put that out there, just in case whoever actually came up with this sees this video. Don't get mad at me. I am not sure of the person that came up with it exactly, so I can't give you that exact credit. Maybe I'll look it up and put it in the description box below. So deep breaths, change the channel, do the opposite, rhythmic tapping, and adjust your focus. If you found this video helpful and you think this content is going to enrich your life, please, by all means, let me know that by giving me a thumbs up. More likes, more comments means more videos. That means I'm on the right track and I'm providing you with what I set out to do. Also, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for notifications, so that way you never miss a moment of content that is designed to help you live your best life.